Hey, how's it going?
Good man, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me pretty well?
I can hear you. Do you think it works better with vertical or horizontal?
Uh, your viewing pleasure, I guess, because
Okay.
honestly, the vertical works out pretty well. I think that's what you're at right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look at all these people coming in.
Wait,
Hey, everybody.
can people see me?
Yeah. What's the hat say there? Oh,
Legoland,
nice.
but Billund.
Oh, nice.
They only
Well,
had it in pink, but I absolutely had to grab it.
right. Love the studio setup behind you, man. That's pretty cool.
Thanks. It's tributes to the things I love the most. I got a lot of classic space, got a lot of pirates, got a lot of classic castle, and then got most of modulars. Well, I've got all the modulars all the way down.
Nice.
You got
You
to
got
have a
the
space that inspires you, right?
right. And I take it you got a work table and everything else all set up as well for the builds?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a little cluttered right now, but it's my. I designed it. It's 6 feet by 4 feet, but it's got two wings that come out that make it 8 feet by 6 feet, and then it's on rolling
Okay.
casters. Some of the projects that I've been working on the last number of years get bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Got to have the space. I understand.
yeah, had to be resourceful. I'm lucky to have the space. I know not everyone is in a situation where they get to dedicate an entire room of their house. I've got a very understanding spouse.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I saw PD up on the table there. That was one of our actual recent polls because we're big Mario fans and big gamers in the house. So yeah, getting the Piranha plant was a must-have for us. So it was cool to see that on your table there.
Oh, it was so hard to get when it first came out too. You had to be really lucky, but now they're starting to get back in stock a little more. My kids and I have like three or four of them in the house in random spots. I've introduced my love of old school retro stuff to my kids, so they're kind of all on board with that stuff too.
I, I'm doing the same. We've been recollecting pretty much every gaming console for US release and everything else, and then trying to pick up all the games and
Whew.
pretty much building that collection as well as, of course, our constant build for Lego. So,
I've I dug out my old ColecoVision, which really dates me.
man.
But I've got some issues with the charging cable, so I've been going to some scrap yard or not scrap yards, but scrap meets and flea markets and stuff, trying to find. There's a real weird switcher piece to it. If it all comes down to it, I might have to go to a friend who's really good with electronics and just have him configure something for me because
Right.
you used to have to hook that into the old bunny ear antennas on the
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I've played but do not own. So that's a little nostalgia right there.
I'll have to send you some photos of that one.
Oh,
But that was actually how I learned Donkey Kong back in the day. Like that was original platform. We are talking early '80s, man.
nice.
Yeah.
I got sounds like I got a kiddo up right now.
Your kids
Lucy,
Lego fans?
yeah, my my what my youngest ones are like doing like the imaginary builds and building the houses and stuff like that. There's a few sets my 6-year-old will build. He just picked up a one of the new Speed Champion sets that they came out with.
Yeah.
Um, all about race cars and stuff like that, like crazy. And then this little one is all about princesses and
Yeah.
a lot of the Friends series. So we do a lot of bulk pickups, and then there's always Friends surplus bulk buys out
Yeah.
there, and so we'll pick those up, and that's how she gets her huge safari zoo built and stuff like that, and just tons of animals all over the place wherever she
Love it.
can.
Love it. Yeah, Friends was so good at introducing all the new colors and pastels and whatnot. So it created a big open opportunity for mock builders to incorporate all the new color designs that came out and all the new parts. Actually, they Speed Champions and Friends are probably responsible for most of the new parts these days. So
Yeah, there's a I love the advancements, and for every new, I guess you want to say, franchise that they acquire and pull in. Like, in all honesty, as soon as I saw Bluey was coming to Lego,
yeah.
I got too excited about that. But yeah, I love every new title and new series. The Dream series, when that came out,
Oh man.
I instantly fell in love with that. The those colors and that scheme, and it really took you back to the whole imaginary build. It wasn't a here's a
Totally.
building, here's a car. It was like, hey, here's a walking turtle house, and it's like, oh, that's what I missed. That's what I enjoyed. So
And I love the fact, like, I'm a big fan of licensed products because you get like movie reference and things like that. But Dreams being a Lego initiative themselves, I find there's a little better price point per piece. So I feel like those sets have a heck of a lot of value to them.
yeah, yeah, I love them. I think pretty much every one I see, I'm picking it up just because and I mean the show was cool too. Of course, if I'm gonna build the sets, I'm gonna watch the show with the kids and stuff like that, and it carried on that same imaginary. You know, it took me back as a kid, like, oh man, that was what I would want to build, as a kid and play with and have this kind of cat creation, or bunny creation or whatever the case is.
Yeah, with kids in particular, they get to they're not as hung up on the confines and constructs that adults have. So I think their imagination tends to run a little more wild. So a line like Dreams allows them to have the unusual, the bizarre, and focus on a story because a story is going to tell you more about your creation than anything else. So
Yeah. Well, so I've got to ask. I know you had mentioned you go, of course, by Steven, but you also go by Yo-Yo. How
yeah.
did you get Yo-Yo for the community here?
I have a very unique last name. It's spelled Joo, and it's actually Hungarian. My dad's side of the family is Hungarian. And
Okay.
within the Hungarian phonetics, they're very complicated, but the J and the first O touch, which creates a Y sound, and the second
Okay.
O has an accent. So it goes to yo. And a common greeting in Hungarian, if you know somebody who's Hungarian, you say yo naput, which is good day. So some of the family, when they immigrated out of Hungary after the Second World War, during the Hungarian Revolution, they changed their name to Good. But my grandfather was a very particular man, and he liked things the very specific way. So we stuck with the Joo. So if you look at my last name, 99.9% of the people are going to get it wrong, which is fine. I don't take any offense to it at all.
I, I
But
have to say I did.
within the hobby, it just became easier for me to go by Yo, and then the guys at work started calling me Yo Yo, and then just for years I've been Yo Yo.
No, I like how pretty much as far as like a community in general, you pick up stuff like that. You pick up the nicknames,
Yeah,
be either about the building style you do or whatever the case is. But having that's I mean that's pretty cool because I mean that's family. That's who you are. And
yeah.
so I I saw your sticker decal for the Yo-Yo Fire Bricks, and then it had Yo-Yo next to your one of your recent Instagram posting deals. I was like, okay, that's perfect.
Yeah. I've sort of leaned into it. It was a very casual nickname that I got through the hobby and through my career, well, 15 plus years ago, and it's just kind of snowballed. And then when my buddy and I did Lego Masters, we didn't really think anything of it because we've always just been Steven and Steven, no issues. But
Right.
on cast, it became very hard to discern who they were asking for because you have microphones and earpieces and hey, Steven, I need you to move to your left. No, not you, Steven. You, Steven. And then we just started going by Crash and Yo-Yo, and it was so much easier for
Uh,
everybody.
nice. So so you are mic'd up or in like earpieced up the whole time during that then?
Seldom ever we have anything in the way of an earpiece, but we have people near us that are communicating stuff. But the microphone is on you from the start of the day to the end of the day. And I am one of those guys that forgets they have a microphone on them about 5 seconds after you put it on me. Um, I'm a very colorful person. So there's a few times they had to come to our table and talk to us about things. Most notably, my partner and I would kind of goad each other into show tunes and songs, and we'd start singing things. But all of that, what is it called? Like public domain is where you can use any song, but when it's a
Oh,
licensed song,
right.
it's owned by somebody else. So they would come over and say, "Sorry guys, you can't hum that." It's like, well, why can't I hum it? Because it goes into the microphones. It's being recorded by everybody.
Yeah.
So, but a
I,
lot of communications we would have back and forth. We had uh, we had a fantastic friendship that is still to this day with the doctors, Justin and Austin. In fact, I was talking
yeah.
to both of them earlier today. And we had this nice banter back and forth where we were just like teenage boys. And Crash and I would have these little conversations about what we're going to do, like play a practical joke or do something funny to them. And we would talk. And then one of us would walk away from our table, and then you'd start to see the cameras moving towards us because they're listening to everything we're talking about. And I would just forget that. Even if you whisper, it doesn't matter. They listen. The microphone is like this far away from my face. Oh,
Man, yeah. So with the show itself, there's always curiosities, and I've reached out to, contestants like Mark and Boone, and
yeah.
even reached out and talked with Amy a few times before, and even some of the Australia contestants. Which,
Sweet.
by all means, I love how much Lego Masters is across the world at this point, and how much it's even growing because there's other countries that are now picking up the show as well
Yeah.
and having their versions. Um, so you're looking at like a 12-hour build.
Mhm.
How long is that really?
So the build time is literally 12 hours. So the show is governed by US game show laws. They're very, 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 very specific about the time that we are given for those things. What the Hollywood magic is, you just simply can't logistically build for 12 straight hours.
Right.
Um, Now, during the time that we were filming, it was post COVID and we were still dealing with COVID type things. So, to give you an idea, a typical day would start at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And then at about 4:30, they're picking us up from the hotel. But somebody's made me breakfast. So that's cool. And then they put us in a production van with a little plexiglass cubicle in the back. And then they take us to the production studio about a half hour away. And then it's like 5-ish in the morning. And then what most people don't realize is how many production personnel are required to put on a show. So you'll have 24 cast members to start with, but there are 380 people that work the show. So it's
Man.
insane. Like there's 35 cameras going at any time. There's lighting, there's hair and makeup teams. Like there are so many people involved. So at that time, we would have to COVID test 380 to 400 people every 48 hours. And that would take 4 hours alone. And then you have to go to hair and makeup. And for the, when it's at the early stages, you've got 24 cast members, hair and well, 5 minutes, but there's some of the folks had quite a bit longer time in the chair, upwards of an hour and a half for some people. So it would take hours. And here we are, it's now lunchtime and we haven't done anything. It's all the production stuff that goes into place. What they would do is they would encourage the start, or they would usually time the start of a new challenge so that we would have an extremely long period of uninterrupted building, usually 5 to 6 hours in the afternoon, early evening. And the reason they would do that is once you're committed to a path, you can't really pivot. And why they don't want you to pivot is because they can't use the stock photos that they've already taken. And there's continuity with stuff that's in the background. So they don't want you building something, then 4 hours in go, I'm not building this anymore, but you're building in the background when someone's being interviewed, and therefore someone's like, well, what is that? So for a continuity thing, they would usually have us build the longest period of time possible uninterrupted, so you're committed to a path. But then, because everybody is unionized within production stuff, unionized breaks happen, and that's lunch, that's dinner, that's all those things that go along with it. Now, from the time perspective, it's very, 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 very specific. Now, when it comes time for a break, they'll say, builders, you got 5 minutes. Then it gets down to like 1 minute. They do a countdown. All right, builders, bricks down, hands up. You literally pick your hands up and you leave the studio right away. There's no lingering. You can't stop. You can't look. You can't talk to other people. You're out. So the studio room is very, very um, proprietary. They like to keep it confidential. There's no mingling around in that space. So then we would leave, we would have our dinner or lunch, whatever it is. And then as we are coming back, the door that opens up at the back of the room,
Right.
we would line up in our order that we left the room in. We'd line up in the order going back in, and they would do a countdown. And we call him the Overlord, Fletch. He's the guy that does the loudspeaker drops. He goes, everybody in place, builders on set in 3, 2, 1. The door opens and the clock starts again.
And
So it's very, very specific. The time does not get screwed around with at all.
so you're definitely looking at a 2 day
Yeah.
process for at least a 12-hour build, and potentially the same with an 8 hour. I guess you'd still, because you're still saying you're working at a 4 to 6 hour nonstop span. So even an 8 hour build is still a 2 day process, then,
Yeah.
right?
Between 2 and 3 days is pretty typical for an episode to run. And there's interesting Hollywood magic, and maybe I'm not supposed to talk about it, but it seems obvious once you go through it. But every episode they take a picture of your front, each side, the outfit you're wearing, and it has to line up, right? Everything's got to be consistent. So there are continuity checkers, and they make sure that your hair was down before.
Right.
My partner had this little Superman curl that went down his forehead, and sometimes it
Yep.
was up and sometimes it was
Yep.
down. So we had to do a lot of managing of his little curl up and down.
Yeah. I I can see like the intensity of you doing the build, and especially doing like a 4 hours of building, and you're just grinding and everything else. The aspect of your look of like the intensity already of it, to then pick right back up and have that same almost look right off the bat going back into the next set, that next day.
So hard, so hard. I'm a guy that thrives off creative energy, and I like momentum. And more often than not, the mandatory break for a meal or the end of day was inconvenient, because I will plow through projects. Like, the reason my studio is in the basement is because it doesn't interfere with the rest of my family, and it's not unusual to see me down here at 3 or 4 in the morning when I'm inspired or working on a project. So that really frustrated me, that process. But at the same time, what a privileged environment to be in. Like, I got to do something that only most people get to dream of. So it was, for all the frustrations, it was still absolutely amazing. Yeah, I feel so honored to be able to represent the AFOL community.
Oh man, it's I I love watching the show. As soon as I found out they were doing a Lego show in general, it just instantly, caught me. I was like, oh man, we get to see, these mock builders. We get to see people doing their own creations, and for me, I'm sadly, I wish I had the skills you guys do. I really do. The imaginative of doing maybe a particular like huge castle build would be there, but to execute it properly and make it look as professional as you guys do, yeah, I wish I had that skill. I'm very much to the book, to the manual, sadly.
Well, you know what? Everyone's got a process, and definitely don't sell yourself short, because part of my process was like, to be on Lego Masters, you can either apply or sometimes they come and find you. I had a footprint on social media that was very minimal because I'm an older guy. I don't have much of a social media following. Um, but they found me on social media, and I just got this random message: "Hey, we want to talk to you." I'm like, delete, because I don't like. There's so much spam out
Right.
there. I don't bother with. If I don't know you, if you're not in my friend group, I'm not really going to reply. And then they sent me another message, and I also deleted it. And then they found somebody in the community that they were close with that was able to backdoor communicate with me and say, hey, this person wants to talk to you. And when they called me, again, super honored. Um, but like yourself, I didn't view myself like that. I'm like, ooh, well, I'm not the guy you think I am. Like I'm a mock builder, but like I don't like a clock. Sometimes my creations sit on my desk behind me for weeks, if not months, before I finish them. Right. Um, so I originally told the casting guy, not really my jam. I gave him the names of some phenomenal friends in the community. He circled back a week later and said, "Yeah, I've talked to your friends. I appreciate that. They all told me to talk to you again." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I learned a little bit about myself. I think we sell ourselves short. I think naturally you don't necessarily boast about your accolades or your abilities, but what we don't understand about ourselves is when we have a passion and we have an excitement about something, oh man, you can ride that wave. Now, the trick is find a partner where you can complement each other. So there were days that I was at my best that maybe my partner wasn't, and then there was days that I wasn't at my best, but he was. So you have to have a very complementary partner and hope that you're almost always both up, but never both down. And where there would be times and places I would be pulling my hair out, my partner would be like, "Hey, you know what? How about we pivot and do this little thing different?" I'm like, "That's what I needed. Thank you." Because I would have been dead in my tracks, but he was able to talk me through it. So it was I learned a lot about myself. Like it was a heck of a journey. Like I told my family I'll be back in a week. Next thing you know, 7 weeks later, and they're bringing my family out to see me, and it was amazing. Like it was an incredible journey.
No, that's awesome. So one of my definitely questions was concerning in regards to how to get on the show, and you said there's the reaching out, as you said, and so there's also competition style. There's like I guess to go into the show as well. What you said, there was another process of getting on.
Well, you can apply. So they do an open casting call, and my understanding is if it's not already, it's going to be very soon an open casting call for season 6.
Okay.
I have heard of people in the community that have been contacted, but I don't know at what level they're at. Um, so you can apply through legomasters.com, their website. There's an application process, and you have to submit portfolios and tell them about yourself and give your social media credentials. Um, through a good representation of the community, once they start selecting teams, they want to make sure that the entire cast is representative of the community as a whole. So every now and then they'll be like, "Oh, you know what? We would really like a mother-son team. We would really like first responders. We really want a brother and sister." And then they start scouring social media connections and past people that they've talked to, and then they target people that fit into an overall balanced equation. So you can apply or they can find you, but the entire process is actually pretty arduous. They ask us not to talk about it, but it's a long process. Roughly speaking, the way they look at it is you become the face of Lego Masters and Lego, and those are two very pure images. So they want to make sure that the people that are representing that brand name fit a particular lifestyle and background. So
Gotcha.
they look at all your social media stuff. They look at all your connections in this world, and they talk to people that you know. And it's just like a job application, really. They do a background check on you, which is pretty normal. But
Right. Yeah. I can imagine, of course, of all things TV, especially with Lego spreading across the ages as it is, from Duplo kids and,
yeah.
apples, grown adults, of course, to late stages in their life, still building and having that. The demographic itself, you want that coverage because we're all love Lego. We all want to be a part of it. But yeah, I can understand you definitely don't want anybody that's going to flip out and make it cause a scene.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're
Well,
checking everything you can.
it's a very stressful environment, and even though you're doing something fun, and as a hobby I always have promised myself I do this because it's fun, and when it stops being fun I take a step back, because I think creativity is shown in your level of engagement. So the end product is going to be reflective of how invested you are in that process. um, So the building with the timeline and judges, and if you have a stumble, you start feeling pressure and the anxiety. It's very real. I didn't understand it until after we got home, but my buddy and I, and also the doctors, I've talked to them about it too because they didn't think about it either. Crash and I got interviewed by Firehouse magazine, and we told them about a typical day. And the guy said, "Hey, actually, that sounds like a day in the fire hall." I'm like, "No, no, no, it's not at all." Well, actually,
Hmm.
it's a lot of hurry up, wait, situational stress, and then reset. So I've coined it acute, situational, periodic stress. So you go in, you get the challenge, you build like crazy, you plateau, you take a break, reset. And then you go back in and you build and you're working at a plateau and then you reset. um, Naturally through my profession, I had this natural ability to come back down to ground zero. So when we would take breaks, you would see some very stressed out teams, and I would be like, okay, I'm going to power through some food. I'm going to grab a granola bar and I'm going to grab a pop, hydrate, caffeinate, all that stuff, and then I would just I'd level out. Um, and occasionally I'd have a nap, which drove other cast members crazy. But as a first responder, I don't get regular sleep. So I take advantage of whatever opportunities I have. And if they don't need me for 20 minutes, I'm putting my head down on the ground and I'm going to sleep because I'm tired. So we had these ability to reset. And I think unbeknownst to us, it became very advantageous because we didn't fall victim to buildup of continuous stress where it was became unmanageable. And that does happen to some teams, and you can see it, and it hurts to see it because but it's like when you're arguing with someone and you go, you just need to calm down. You just need, no one's ever calmed down ever when they've been told to calm down.
Right.
So you can't really tell a person not to stress out. If they're stressed, right? For various reasons.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard to watch a person or a team start to come unraveled.
Yeah, I can't imagine by all means that those levels that you had to go through. I go through my day-to-day routine, and then I've got my kids. By the time I get home and go through the night routines and stuff like that. But going through those extremes, as you said, that plateau, and then you have to reset. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So so I want to talk about some of your builds if we can
sure.
on season 3, because what's really cool about your experience, and I want to definitely talk about it as well, is not only were you in a season, but you're a returning guest for one of the spectacular for the
Yeah,
holiday specials. So that was even cool to watch because I was like, Steven's back.
yeah.
Heck yeah.
I was excited to do that.
Yeah, little. Okay, I guess I want to ask that real quick. How is it building with Lil Rel?
Well, building with the celebrities is distracting, right? Because for starters, they have a natural screen presence. They're very comfortable with cameras around them, and they slip into this acting kind of mode where they're comfortable and the conversation flows. But every now and then, you got to focus on building, and it wasn't unique to Little Rel. I mean, Eric McCormick and Holly Robinson and Sophia Bush were all very engaged people, and they want to learn about us. They want to find out information, but occasionally you kind of have to buckle down. You got to build.
Right.
So it, there were times and places it was a little distracting. And honestly, no discredit to our celebs, but they just don't have that Lego background.
Right.
So when I would build with Crash, I would say, okay, go get me some 2x4 plate, and then get me some 1x6 plate, and then get me some 1x1 brick. And he would go and get it. And then I would ask Rel that, and he'd be like, you need what? Um, so 2x4 plate, it's the flat piece. It's like, oh man, I'm just gonna go get it. And you run and go grab it and bring it back. So there's a very big communication piece that's missing because you're not dealing with someone that plays with Lego all the time. And again,
Right.
like it would be no different than if I were to build with my wife. I would have to be a little slower with the way that I communicate because she just doesn't have the vernacular that I've had over the years.
Right. yeah, I sense a lot of like put them on a project, it seemed, and then you get the pieces that you need. You get the plan put into place for what you need to do that. But
Yeah.
as long as they're focused on even something small, that seemed to be more of the go-to on all the seasons, actually, very much.
Yeah, that's what we call tactical entertainment. Keep them moving,
Right.
because that clock is ticking.
On outside of Eric's sabotage,
Oh,
whole fiasco, it was just
dude, that
yeah,
guy, that guy is legendary. He was absolute mayhem and madness, and I loved every bit of it.
yeah.
He was he was every bit of the gentleman that you'd expect, and he was so funny, so funny.
Those are the more of the experiences as well that I definitely jealous of because the it's not just the building and stuff like that. Those interactions that you get, even with more in the community, even the other contestants themselves, you're getting people that for you being from Canada and everything else, you've got all these U.S. contestants across Texas, Oklahoma, East Coast, West Coast, everything else. Um, Getting that community together itself, I think, is really cool. Just that
Absolutely.
experience on together like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting what this hobby has given me in my world. It is absolutely dumbfounding the relationships that I've made through this hobby, not just Lego Masters, but the hobby in general. I travel for conventions. I've gone to them overseas, throughout the States, throughout Canada, and I bump into people all over the place, and we have this commonality through our hobby. And these are people I wouldn't necessarily ever interact with. Um, have you ever heard of Scareback? It's in Denmark.
I
Um, it's
haven't.
just outside of Billund, where's the factory and the home base of Lego. And in September, there's this massive AFOL convention called, well, it's in the little town of Scareback, but you have AFOLs that attend from, I'm going to get it wrong, someone will have to correct me, but it's something like 25 to 30 different countries. And the last time I went a couple of years ago, let's see if I can remember it. I had breakfast with a group from South Africa, and then I had coffee with some Brits, and then I had lunch with some guys from Italy. I had afternoon drinks with some boys from Norway. And then I partied with the Swedes, who had this after hours party that was Star Wars themed. Like,
Oh man.
never in a million years would you ever be able to have that degree of camaraderie if not for something like Lego. Like, it was so awesome. But even like within, I go to conventions around North America, and I see people that pop up again, like, oh, hey, I know you. I know you. I saw you in Seattle. I saw you in Virginia.
Nice.
And it just like you pick up where you left off. And I love it. I love the friends that I've made throughout this community.
Well, and then I've talked with you about it, but you've met Brickman, and that right
Yeah.
there, like knowing that his exhibits were recently in Kansas City, just I think just this last year actually, which is like a 3-hour trip for me. I so badly wanted to go see it because the Australia Lego Masters, yeah, that one pulled me in. And then, funny enough, you watch the Australia, you know what's kind of going to happen in the U.S. version in the next season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, his builds and his creations and how massive these things are, like the tree in the Lego store down in Australia, is ridiculously huge.
Yeah, the Brickman, Ryan McNaught, as I mentioned, I met him at a convention a little over 10 years ago. Just an instantly friendly human being. And it doesn't take long for you to figure out that you're in the presence of absolute wizardry. The man is iconic with his massive builds, and he's just an all-around great guy. And I had mentioned to you that I bumped into him in Denmark. I was trying to give him something that I was working on that he kind of prompted me to work on. We ended up in Denmark at the same time. I'm texting him and my friend Robin, who's part of the LCP program. They give me this room number in this random building on the Lego property, and I text them I'm outside. Oh, come on in! Just we're all expecting you. And I open up the door, and it's Keld is giving a talk to all the LCPs from around the world. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Like, no, 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 we're expecting you. Come on in. What? Like, you want to talk about Lego royalty? I was in complete disbelief that I had myself in that situation. But anyways, I
Man.
gave Ryan a little gift at that point, and we had a beer later on. It was good.
That's cool.
He's
Yeah,
such a nice guy.
his the the emotions that you get from the judges, because they're again, they're also builders. They're part of the
Yeah,
community. They've gone to those levels of being where they are now, as far as within the industry and the company itself. But the emotions he portrays and shows, even on the show when he has to let someone go and stuff like that, I mean, that makes me sad. It like almost tear up, because it's very personable, and you see how much that means to them. And Amy and Jamie do the same thing. You see them getting very emotional when they start, have to let someone go, and it's very
truly.
touching to have those people there.
Yeah, those are very real moments. There's no Hollywood orchestration of that. The longer you're together, the emotional attachments become a little more significant, and you could tell it hurts the judges. It really hurts the judges to give bad news, but it is part of the process. Um, I've seen Brickman struggle with it. My friend Robin Sather, who is the judge for New Zealand, I know
Yeah.
he had struggled with a few of those teams that had to go because it was their time, not because they weren't without talent. That's the thing, is a person is not necessarily being removed from the show because they stink. It's quite the contrary. Like, just getting there is quite the accomplishment. It's just that day, that time wasn't meant to be. Either they missed a mark on the challenge, or the creativity ran dry, or, as I mentioned, instead of both team members at a high, they're both at a low, and you're like, okay, let's let's go. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
But I always told Crash, no matter what, the judges could rule any way they wanted. No matter, we had no delusions of grandeur. We didn't think we were going to be there forever. We always wanted to just be proud of what we put on the table. So if the judges are needing to send us home because of whatever, that's fine. We just need to be happy with what we put down.
Mhm.
So I know it hurts the judges. I consider Amy and I consider Jamie to be friends. And I've had a chance to talk to them, obviously, when I did the holiday special, but I've traveled to Denmark a couple of times, and I cross paths with them. They're amazing human beings. In fact, Jamie Berard is probably the person I look up most to in the early stages of my hobby enthusiasm. Jamie, if you aren't aware, was the creator of the modular lines. He started with a cafe corner, and then he made it the industry that it is today. And um, I'm such a huge fan of himself, and so for him to give me feedback, I took it. Like, I took everything like a sponge, the good, the bad, the things that he challenged me on. I'm like, you're right. I need to push myself. The critiques, awesome. Some of my greatest victories is after they finished filming, Jamie would take out his personal cell phone and take a picture of something I built. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I love
Nice.
that, just because I look up to him, and he's so positive. He's such a great role model for the community. um, yeah, I can't wait for more opportunities. I can't wait to the next time I get to hang out with them, either in a judging capacity or otherwise.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's like I said. I think because of the judges, you really gravitate, and you feel the show. You feel the love and the passions very much. And Brickman, like I said, just he really pulled it in for me,
Totally.
because I mean, it's just him tearing up and just getting, like, you could hear it in his voice and everything else. Um, got a quick question here from one of our followers. So for us, of course, the show was a few weeks, but in real time, yeah, you had mentioned it was about
Yeah,
7 weeks, for what you had said with your family. But is that you're looking at a few
yeah,
days for building time per episode? So then, for overall your experience there, how long was that?
yeah. So the entire season 3. So I was lucky enough to be there at the beginning, right to the end. It was 7 weeks. So when you fly down, the first day is a bunch of orientation stuff where you're meeting all the production people. Um, Everybody who has a department talks to you, and then you do what's called a boot camp. So everybody sits in for the first couple of days. You're testing new skills and stuff just to make sure that you have the momentum, if you will. Otherwise, you're just throwing people on set and go build. We got a chance to familiarize ourselves with the brick pit in a very, very casual sense. Just from, hey, this is where plate is, this is where brick is. Uh, we had to do a lot of digging to figure out the actual locations of everything. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But it takes about 3 or 4 days to do like the soft stuff. You go through hair and makeup, you go through wardrobe, all kinds of different stuff, and then you are given the challenge. And then it's just like you see it on TV. We walk in, we have no idea what it's going to be. We stand on those risers, we listen to Will and the judges, they tell us, and then we're off. And that's the way it goes. And then we would film actively episodes from Monday to Friday. Saturdays were used for a lot of interview type stuff, and then we would get Sundays off. Typically we would have, it sounds outrageous, but it's somewhere around 14 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, um, which is a lot. But I've already told you,
Yeah.
sometimes your day starts with 8 hours of nothing.
Right.
So, and then people cook. Oh, dude, as a dad, as a family man, this is amazing. People cooked for me. Someone cleaned my hotel room once a week. At the end of the day, I put my laundry in a basket and it was dry cleaned and hanging up for me the next morning. Like, I didn't have to shovel, snow, mow lawns, take out garbage, grocery shop, none of that. It was all taken care of for me. So from a logistics standpoint, it was very, very easy to just focus,
Right.
be very, very focused. Um, yeah. So I said I was going to come back to something. I can't remember what I said I was going to come back to.
Brick pit, and I know that's a big thing for me because that room is just it's
Dude,
big.
it's awesome. It is awesome. I consider myself spoiled to have 40 years worth of bricks I've accumulated, but I got nothing compared to the brick pit. I think the year we did it, they had about 3.5 million elements, and I think they're up to about 5 million. Now, that said, they never have the part you really, really, really want, which is weird. We were given an iPad, and an iPad, we would have to look up what part we were after, and then it would tell us there were columns, and then in each column there were drawers, and then there were bins. So it would give you a coordinate, basically, where to find your item. I found the way they categorized their parts to be, uh, I'll critique it, needlessly complicated. Have you ever looked at Brickset and then Bricklink and then the Lego website and try to find a part?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the most outlandish name that doesn't make sense to us because we're not factory specialists. So the one, I think it was around episode 3. Um, yeah, it was around episode 3. I just told Crash, keep building. I'm so frustrated. And I walked over, I pulled out every single drawer and roughly committed to memory because that was way faster than me looking up the iPad, going through hundreds of pages looking for things. And the interesting thing about, like, the very first one we did was the Maltese cross, and I needed red 2x3 inverted slopes and 2x2 inverted slopes. And I found a little bin with about 20 in there. And I said to the brick runners, "Do you have more of these?" "Yeah, we have lots." They have an entire room around back filled to the brim. So I dumped them out. I'm like, "I need more." And they brought out this bag. And I'm like, I went to go grab from the bag. They're like, "Nope, we actually have to fill the bin and then you can empty it."
Oh
They would
man.
put 20 in and I go dump. They'd put 20 in, I go dump. 20 in, dump, 20 in, dump. Because I needed hundreds and hundreds. But I
Right.
needed to find out if they had that many parts. Because if I was going to commit to that build, I needed hundreds of them.
Yeah.
So,
Now that build you guys got to keep in its
yeah.
display somewhere, right?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, we're the only Lego Masters cast members on any format that have been allowed to keep a build. That one was very unique because it was a joint. sponsorship with the US space program, NASA, and the winning build, which ours was lucky enough to be, got displayed in an educational display at Cape Canaveral.
Okay.
And then when they were done with that, it went into storage. And we made some inquiries like what happens to it now. It's like, well, it's just in storage. So we talked to some really good people at Lego Masters, and Endemol Shine, which is the group that governs the TV show, and everyone agreed that it seemed like a good fit for it to come back to us. So
That's awesome.
they put it on a pallet, and one day this pallet showed up that was 8 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet tall, all shrink wrapped,
Oh,
and it
man.
showed up at our union hall a day earlier than we were really expecting it. So it was it's interesting. Now it lives in our union hall, but we take it to local events every now and then.
Did it come in a display case
Yeah,
then? Okay,
a full plexiglass display case and
man,
everything. Yeah, it's
so
awesome.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, I've talked with Amy before, and she had mentioned, because I was curious. I was like, "Do these builds get to stay built?" And
No.
she said they don't. They get all those parts, and and then I started thinking about the people that have to disassemble and resort that stuff back into what you're saying now, that organization in the brick pit. But all the builds get broken down, except
Yep.
for, of course, the finale ones that get saved and the winner and all the other stuff, and they get displayed, depending on which Lego store or Lego land or whatever gets those builds. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's a lot of brick to have
it's
to take apart.
time consuming. It's time
Yeah,
consuming. The other thing is you're there's some weird rules. I won't bore you with the details, but you're governed to a certain number of trays that you can have at your table at any one time. Um, and then when you're done with parts, we don't have to sort them. You literally take your arm and sweep everything into a bin, and somebody else takes
man.
it away and sorts it for you.
See, those builds you guys do they're not small.
They're not
So knowing,
small.
yeah,
No.
knowing that all these pieces that you were potentially going to use or could be using, yeah, sweeping that table, and then of course seeing some on the floor and all that other stuff, you know,
Hmm.
having you guys move those the rollers, that's always nervous seeing,
Oh, very.
watching that in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just a lot of brick to, and
It's an
I can imagine you're
enormous
saying,
amount of brick. I, I, I don't know the exact number, but I want to say it's somewhere between 12 to 15 brick runners and brick sorters. And they're just working almost nonstop, refilling bins, taking apart models. Um, in very rare instances, I will not confirm or deny the fact that I have heard that small portions of people's builds sometimes make their way out of the studio. It's very frowned upon. But I have heard, like our water fountain display, we had a mother duck and three baby ducks going
yeah,
around in a circle.
yeah.
My understanding is those now live on the desks of some people in production. So that's kind of an honor that people actually want to keep things that I make. So
No, that's awesome. Yeah, the duckies after the rain,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one.
yeah. I was gonna say I had to pull up, a few of your builds again, because as like the the massiveness of like the tree build, of course the Denny's accident deal.
Yeah,
I love those. I love those. I love modular buildings. I love the modular whole series. Once they came out with the Lego Expert deals and they started doing the modulars, I instantly was gravitating to those every time I was picking them up.
totally.
Um, so seeing those, and then your guys' incorporation of the dinos and stuff like that, that was always fun to see.
Do you want to hear a
Um,
fun story about the dino one?
what
So
what you
we had to incorporate a dinosaur scene into everyday living. So knowing who the judge was, Jamie Berard's legendary First Modular Buildings, I'm like, crash, this is what we're gonna do. Big building over here, big building over here, street down the middle, foreground. Like I'm an ambitious builder because I build fast. So I I did the bottom two floors of the buildings with the expectation that Crash was going to replicate it and I could move to another portion of the build. Now, because Jamie's the judge, I put a coffee shop with a barista and a coffee machine and people inside and an awning and a specially built corner unit, and it's fully outfitted and decorated. Now I ask you, Keith, do you remember anything in that building? No, you don't, because no one
Wasn't
ever
it rigged
saw
up?
it. No one ever
Wasn't
sees it,
there?
right?
Well, wasn't there
So,
certain color mug though? Weren't
I, so what I what I ended up doing is focusing on all the wrong things because I was playing to make Jamie happy, and I wasn't playing to the challenge. So when Jamie came over and he was talking to us, and the judges have a very specific amount of time, um, he goes, "Okay, so what are you building?" And I'm pointing out all these neat features of these buildings that I'm doing. He's like, "Okay, very nice. Tell me your story." So we tell him the story. He's like, "Okay, tell me again what you're building." So I start building and I tell him about the building, and he goes, "Okay, now Stephen, tell me about your story." So I tell the story. He goes, "Now Stephen, what are you spending all of your time on right now?" I'm like, "Dang it, on things that don't matter." He's like, "Exactly." It's like, we're not going to see the inside of the coffee shop. We're going to be cameras 10 feet back. Think about what the camera sees and make sure the story is easy to see.
right.
Yeah. And then I made the mistake of choosing a color for a building that matched the dinosaur. I'm just like, ugh. I made a lot of errors on that one, but luckily not enough to go home.
Did he? Did he take a picture of that one?
Nope, nope,
No.
nope, he did not.
Pull up the phone on that one.
that, that was a bit of a runaway train. And then the other stuff that they were very kind with the edit on that because um, after we had finished building, we resumed the next morning for judging. So there's no more building, but the battery pack inside the dinosaur was dead. And when I
Oh,
went to take the battery pack out, the neck fell off and the head smashed on the ground. And then I had to scramble to pick it up because once you're called the judge, I think you have 5 minutes to do the movement of everything. So I'm on the ground and then a leg fell off and I'm trying to put the head back together and I lost track of where the leg was. I'm like,
oh man.
this is unbelievable. So then I just leaned the dinosaur against the building because it was missing a leg.
Okay.
But proof
Yeah.
of concept, the night before, everyone saw it work flawlessly. So I feel like I was vindicated the fact that I proved that it worked. But wow, that was not a fun judge for me.
So,
Oh,
so out of all your season three, outside of course your the holiday special ones, what was probably one of your fun builds, like
oh,
your funnest build that you did?
my all-time favorite one was the mini golf. The mini
The castle.
golf had
Yeah.
me the second we walked into the studio and you saw the little preformed holes. I just looked over at Crash. I'm like, I know 100% what we're doing. Try to keep up. And then when we were started the challenge, I mocked out a large scale brick, and I'm like, I need 150 of these. I need 150 of them in this color. 150. Let's go. Boom. And we were building like maniacs. The doctors actually finished theirs a little bit early, and they came over and helped us with all the final building. I just had them replicating bricks to make a massive castle because like I can see it where I'm sitting right now. The yellow castle was my first Lego set from 1979. It's still an iconic set for me. It's in my studio. It's my inspiration, and I absolutely had to build it for that one. I had it. I had that vision in my head like instantly. I was so excited to do it.
No, that was I love that build. The castle series, of course, is just iconic across
Yeah,
every
totally.
generation. I mean, with them doing the reissues and stuff like that, even like the um, Kingdoms and all those series. I
Totally
love those series very
love
very
it. Yeah. Well, there's
yeah.
the designers that are in Denmark right now. I'm holy smokes, they are intergalactically impressive. Mike Psyche's probably my number one designer right now that I just home in on everything that he makes. He's the one that did the reconfigured Galaxy Explorer. He's had a
Okay.
heavy hand in the Lion's Night Castle, and trust me when I say probably 9 of your top 10 favorite sets had Mike Psyche's hands in the design process.
Nice.
He is phenomenal. Him and Carl Miriam are putting out extraordinary stuff in the creator line. Guys like Justin Ramsden. From my season, David Gaddis. David's now a designer. He was working on the Wednesday stuff as well as the Wicked stuff, and he's got new projects on the go. I just Man, the stuff that's coming out of Denmark right now, and they're leaning into guys like you and I in our demographic, right? Like they're pulling on our heartstrings, bringing us back to these
Yep.
classics, the stuff that I grew up with. I know people that stepped out of Lego for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they're coming back to it because this is the stuff they remember from their youth.
Yep. Oh yeah. They reissued the Fort El Dorado set and stuff like that. Yeah, the base plate wasn't the old, preformed deal. You
Yeah.
you built roughly the walkway and everything else. But I love those. I mean, that I'm picking up those um, roughly reissued series, and with the new Blacktron series and
Ooh, yeah.
Renegade and all those other, massive, beautiful ships, the Explorer and all that. Oh yeah, you're
They're
pulling to what I grew up with, and
totally.
now I'm getting, building back my old collection, but yet still getting this new stuff because it's the nostalgia of it.
100%, man. I'm a nostalgia guy. I think you and I have talked about our interest in retro and nerd culture, and nostalgia just gets me every time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been picking up a lot more classic castle stuff, um, and then of course for me the old uh, Samurai Knights
Ooh,
series. Um, I have a friend of mine that he has huge collection, and I'm so jealous of what he does. And he's got these massive old spaceship builds, and stuff like that on his tables. He shows me, little bits of his collection on the castles, and he's opening up new rooms so he can put more of his stuff out. He's taking over his kids' room so he can get more builds done. I mean, yeah, I love seeing all that older stuff because that's what I started with. That's what I grew up with.
yeah.
Of course, I was a kid and never could afford it, but now I'm picking it back up, even though the values, of course, are much, much higher than what they
Oh,
were
yeah.
then.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very lucky. My collector streak started early enough in my life that I'm not trying to pay or catch up to the pricing of today because it's hard if you're a nostalgia freak and you want to jump back into
Yeah.
the old school stuff. It's hard. One, it's hard to find, two, and it's just crazy value these days.
Yeah. No, it's a high market, and I continually constantly call it an investment at this point because no matter what you pick up used, I don't usually carry much sealed sets. By the time I get it, I'm opening it. I want it built. I want to get my hands to, you know, getting those tensions on the fingers to, every piece put together, the stickers on everything, and get that thing up on a shelf and displayed. So, yeah, my values will never be sealed sets. It will always be
You should
used.
enjoy it. I do have sealed sets, but they're honestly by default. Just um, I'm an acquirer. I like acquiring things. I like the pursuit. I like it when something new that meets my needs comes out, and I usually buy it. But like any collector, you run out of space, you run out of time, and then they just kind of sit. But I swear to you, everything I've ever bought has been for the purpose of pure enjoyment and building. And there's people out there that will occasionally contact me and say, "Oh, this new Star Wars UCS set's coming out. How many should I buy?" I'm like, you should buy one and you should build it and you should enjoy it. If
Right.
it's worth 50% more in 10 years, that's going to be cake, but just enjoy it. Don't treat it like a commodity per se. Like we all have to kind of tell ourselves that, oh, at some point I'm going to sell it and get my money back. But I don't know necessarily if that's the case. I have this conversation with my wife every now and then where I talk about a perceived value of something, and then she giggles and reminds me, well, Stephen, it's actually worth nothing because you're never going to get rid of it. So
Right.
she's not wrong. She's not wrong.
Yeah. I, I I'm there at times too.
Yeah.
Very much.
We have to
But
justify our hobby somehow.
yeah, very much. So with uh with of course Lego Masters across the world and everything else, and we've talked about the Australia one before as well, um, for the love of definitely Brickman and stuff like that. Out of all the challenges what you've experienced and then what you've seen on the other seasons, what is one that you probably one fear the most and then also love the most?
Ooh, um, fear the most. I know Australia did one that was partially underwater, and the water fountain one that we did. Anybody that's ever played with Lego and water, you understand what I'm talking about. The clutch with Lego is quite specific. So when you put pieces together, it receives itself and stays together. But when those pieces are filled with water, there's no hydrostatic tension that you can overcome. So you'll put pieces together that are wet and then turn around, they go and they pop off. So it's it's infuriating. And in fact, I had a chance to talk to Nathan Sawaya, who was part of the challenge team. I talked to him a couple of years after I was on the show. Uh, and he first question he asked is like, "How do you like the water fountain challenge?" I'm like, "Oh man, I hated it." He's like, "Yeah, we could tell everyone was struggling with that because no one factored in they're not just wet bricks, they're hard to actually clutch together." And to me, when you're working with water and Lego, it's not a Lego challenge that involves water, it's a water challenge that involves Lego. And yes, that sounds the same, but I assure you those are very different things. So that is the one I fear the most. I have absolutely no desire to revisit that one at all. um, Ones that I liked the most, uh, I want to say it might have been season two of the US version where teams started to build and then they had to swap with another team to finish it.
Oh, okay.
Was that? I think that was season two. I
Oh,
love that. The half stuff because everyone has their own inherent style, and even though we're building with a defined number of bricks and shapes and colors, um, when set about a challenge, we all approach it very differently. So the way that I build a bird is going to be different than the way that you build a bird. But if I'm designing half of a bird and then give it to you, matching that style, but keeping your own inflection. Also, just a little shout out, Groovy Bones is in the room. So that's Sam from season four.
ah,
And I desperately wanted to do the realism challenge, desperately, and I
man.
my wife will vouch for me. I had no knowledge of what was happening, but when we were watching it for the first time, I'm like, "Oh damn, I'd do the desk or the carpet for sure." And then Sam did it. I'm like, "Oh, you fool! That's way
Yes.
too big."
Oh my, the rug. That
Oh
rug
yeah.
was massive.
But I like ridiculous things, and it's funny because when he picked the rug, I'm doing like the basic math. Okay, on a 10 by 10-inch base plate, you got 32 studs across that, 16 bricks by, okay, by 8. So then you're, and I'm doing math and I'm working on the studs per minute. And then they went to the edit and he's talking about studs per minute going, "Mom, I don't think we have any time." I'm like, "Sam, you don't have time, man." Like,
Uh,
it's funny how my brain went the exact same direction his did, and then I started doing the math. So yeah,
no, welcome, Sam. That I love that challenge. I thought that was great, and what even more is that you saw the other contestants know that they needed to kind of get in there, and they were helping put the pieces together near the end. So yeah, that rug, that such a challenge, but so amazing when it was done.
epic. It's legendary, right? Like I always will maintain you have to go and have fun. And that, I mean, it was ambitious, but it was fun, right? Like this is a challenge everyone talks about because it was so outlandish and weird. But when they first walked into that room, I'm like, oh man, I would do something insane. Like the desk or the rug was my first thought. So yeah,
Well,
good
yeah,
for you, Sam.
and yes, no, that was so well done. It was so well done. Uh, yeah, I remember watching the Australia one, of course, the detective aspect of the room and the spotting out and stuff like that, and then yeah, watching the U.S. and seeing that, it's like, oh man, Here we go. Um, let's see. For your uh, holiday special,
Yeah.
what was your favorite build on that one?
Um, it it's probably not the one that most people would pick up on, but unfortunately, I think all of us fell victim to it. We didn't anticipate the camera angle. But when we had to design the reindeer replacements for Santa's sleigh, um, my little Rel and I were talking about, okay, well, what would be fun and whimsical, and we landed on the lightning bug or the firefly, depending on what's. I kept saying it was a firefly because I'm a firefighter. He thought it was a lightning bug. I'm like, whatever, it all works. Um, but I actually had the entire back end built in translucent yellow, and I had a flashing light module in it. It did not pick that up on TV. The wings on the back, they have an opalescent 1 by 6 by 6 panel, and I incorporated them into the back of the wing structure so it had that iridescent wings of a fly. And then I packed in the blue snowflake element inside each one of those panels. It looked incredible. And then when they filmed it, I'm like, oh, you can't see it. So I really, really liked that build. It just didn't photograph well, and we spent too much time on details that were less important, and I didn't leave myself enough time for the face. So I would like a little bit of a redo on that one. But I would also like, instead of them filming from below, I would like them to have filmed from above, like Aaron Newman's gingerbread eagle, straight up the most impressive Lego Master build I have ever seen. That was unbelievably awesome.
Yeah.
But they filmed it from below, and that was where the finishing touches weren't. From above, it was spectacular.
So, I guess that's one thing. I've seen a few contestants rebuild their challenges at home.
Mhm.
Have you done that?
So when I finished season 3, do you remember how those little habitat modules were becoming quite popular, either 16 by 16 or 8 by 8?
Yep.
I did a 16 by 16 habitat module of each one of my builds from
Okay.
that season. And
Oh,
it
nice.
worked out that it created a great big Cubert like pyramid. And that was something I took around to conventions for about a year. So that was a lot of fun. Do it in micro scale.
Right.
Micro scale, for those of you that haven't tried it, challenge yourself. It's way more complicated than you think. Every part counts, and you have to be very comfortable with new parts usage and thinking outside of the box. So
A lot of the new architect series are doing a lot of the micro scales
yeah.
on the cities and the skylines and the iconic buildings within those particular countries and stuff like that. And yeah, micro scale. I've done a micro scale build on. It was a arcade unit. Man, that was a challenge
Very
because they're just
deliberate. You
yeah
have to be
very
very deliberate in your parts.
yeah. Well, and they get that pixelation, of course, on a classic arcade style game. It looked great when it was done, but the assembly on it, yeah, that is a challenge.
Hmm.
Well, speaking of challenges, are you up for a minifigure challenge?
Well, let's see. I like minifigs, but I like the themes I really like, and the other themes I'm not so good at. But let's try.
Well, I picked out five. I ran that one. I think it was a 10 deal one that I sent you
Yeah.
to see what your thoughts were on it. Now I picked out. Let's see here. We're gonna go name that
Uh
series.
oh.
Don't have to name the character, just the series only.
Okay.
All right. First one up.
Oh. Oh man. With the anglerfish, that's Ninjago. Ninjago movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice.
1 for 1.
Yep. The Lego Ninjago movie. Nice. Well, this one should be easy. Most people gaming on their phones or not should get this.
Oh, that's Angry Birds, one of the pigs.
Yep. I had to toss in an easy one.
I'll take an easy one.
Yeah. All right. Uh, I would like to know the subgenre, the sub series on this.
Ooh.
You get this one.
Oh, Ferrari, but it's yellow skin, so it's the original one, which would be they didn't call it Speed Champions. It was called oh, I want to say it was Speed something or other, but I don't think it was Speed Champions. But it's the Ferrari team from the little workshop.
It is Ferrari, yeah, the racer series, yeah,
Racer Series,
yeah.
yes.
The the Ferrari was pretty much where I had gone on that sub, but that was great. Let's see. This is always a fun little character. As soon as I came across him, I just had to laugh.
Oh, that is looks like an adventurer style helmet. So I'm gonna say adventurer line.
Now, let's see if I can get the. Can
On
you
the
make
back.
out the letter on the back
I
here? Let's
I
see here.
can't quite.
I will say it's a D.
D.
Definitely a
Oh,
scared little guy.
you're gonna stump me on this one. Not quite sure that one.
Hey, yep, groovy. Sam's got it. Dino series.
Dino, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay. Right on. That's the early stuff before the Jurassics.
yeah, yep. No, and the classic Dino builds. You look at them and like even when McDonald's did the exclusive small builds for like the Brachiosaurus and stuff like that, you're looking at those going, this is what we started out with, and the Jurassic series is where we're at now, and you're like, that is completely different builds. The old polybag dinos. All
Quick
right.
side note on that for our Jurassic World Challenge. They brought out, they're called K5 boxes. They're about 30 inches by 24 inches by 24 inches. They brought out a pallet of those of all the brand new dinosaurs that hadn't hit the shelves yet. Oh, bags and bags and bags of mini raptors and big dinosaurs. I'm like, I want to take these all home. We weren't allowed to take anything,
Oh, man.
but I
That would
digress.
be that would be epic to
It was awesome.
to have all those out. All right, last one here.
Oh, studio.
Yep. Okay. Two easy ones. That's what I was going for.
I guess I'm okay at this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got bags and bags. I've been so focused right now on organizing my collection. I'm getting display
Oh,
cases set
nice.
up for
Yeah.
minifigs, and of course even getting classics like this
Ooh,
lovely.
you got the Duplo bunny.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a nice score.
yeah, the old tag and everything else still on it.
That is amazing. That is a really, really good score. I've seen them
Yeah, I've
pop up at auctions and stuff, but I've never pulled the trigger on it. Someday I will.
oh, wife found, and funny enough, in a thrift store, and I was so excited when she brought it home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
great. You never know
I
when you're
love
going to
the
find
nostalgia.
treasure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've been fortunate to come across those little treasures, that people just kind of overlook, and they're like, oh, it says Duplo. That's not great big Lego. No one's going after that
I
stuff.
love Duplo.
Oh, it the again the series for like the Disney stuff that's coming out for the kids and stuff like that. I love what Duplo's done. Again, the licensing and all that other stuff has been great. Um,
Yeah.
Getting those opportunities to pull in those characters. And again, as I said, I'm really excited to see Bluey come to Lego.
Have you followed any of Michelle Brooks's works? Michelle Brooks was from season 2, I believe, of Lego Masters USA. She did a large dollhouse sized Bluey house, big scale Bluey figs. I think she was definitely at Brick Slopes in Salt Lake City with it on display. I see one of our organizers of Brick Slopes minifig 801. He's one of the organizers of Brick Slopes. I don't know if maybe on their website they actually had a picture of Michelle's big bluey house. It was so well done.
Huh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up now.
Yeah.
It would.
Michelle Brooks, I think she goes by Building Bells,
Oh yes,
if
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
mistaken. Yeah.
All of her classic. It said that
Her
you had to
classic
actually.
toys.
Yes, yes. All of her
Yeah.
Tonka or not Tonka,
Fisher
Fisher Price
Price.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was the one that won last year's Australia against the world. She was paired up with Crystal
Yes.
Star.
Yep.
Michelle is a next level genius builder. She is spectacular and another just fantastic human being. So,
That take her nostalgia take using Lego on those Fisher Price toys, and the her shelves are phenomenal. I remember watching. I was actually watching her Instagram stuff where she was moving and she had to pack everything up, and then when she got to her new place, she was getting all the shelves put up with all of her builds and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, the realism of what she built
oh, it's
and the nostalgia
incredible.
she built of it was just phenomenal.
And when you see her stuff in person, it is arguably just like the original toy. And she usually has some things for sale off to the side, and she's got little micro versions of all of her famous builds, like the
Oh
record
man.
player, the Etch a Scratch, and the little ball popper thing. Yeah,
Oh,
that is a very, very talented builder. Very talented.
so speaking of conventions and stuff like that, what's your upcoming ones you got, or do you have any?
Uh it's interesting. I do more projects for the heck of it and for the fun of it. I've got Groovy Bones helping me out right now with a very large mosaic build for a local charity group. They've just undergone a big renovation of their building. They help house families whose children are doing long-term treatments at the Children's Hospital. So we're working on a mosaic build for them. Um, and again, just for fun, just because we want to help them out. Crash is involved with that one too, my partner from Lego Masters. I also have a regular display window that I do at my local children's hospital, and I kind of go with whatever theme or feel that I want. And most recently, there was a young man that was undergoing treatments who kept looking at the display, and his mom reached out to me through social media and said, "Oh, it brings him a lot of joy. Thank you very much." I'm like, "Oh, what's his favorite theme?" And she said, "Well, Harry Potter." I'm like, "Okay,
On
next
that.
build's gonna be Harry Potter."
Nice.
So to my other room, it's a lot of work. I just finished the Quidditch field and the little towers around the Quidditch field, but
Nice.
off to one side is Diagon Alley. There'll be the train station going through a mountain. In the foreground will be a Quidditch field. Then the Hogwarts Express will be coming out of the mountain to a train platform. Then there's the river system that goes towards Hogwarts. I'm doing a very large scale corner of Hogwarts with the Whomping Willow in the front and foreground. So
What's the size
uh,
for the space?
this is gray base plates. So the 48 stud by 48 stud. It's six by no, it's 8 by 2, 6 by 2, 8 by 2. So it'll be what's that? 36, 120 inches by 30 inches. So it's pretty big.
Man, yeah, yeah.
Pretty big.
I hopefully taking pictures, hopefully posting those up when you get it
I will.
complete.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
should be ready to put on display. I'm hoping by early next week, maybe the week after. And then it'll be up on my Instagram.
do you change almost like a quarterly basis on that window, or how often do you?
I wish I could do it that frequently. The display I'm taking out's actually been in there a little too long. I like to do 2 displays a year,
Okay.
three if I'm ambitious, but these are usually 50 to 60 hours of design work per build. So they take up a lot of free time. Um, and I still have, a wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs and a full-time job. So I filled my build time with projects like that.
Someone's asking, does Lego ever take your Harry Potter ideas and incorporate them into a set? Have you seen
I've never
your creativeness into them?
I've never had anything of mine incorporated into a set that I know of. I'd imagine everybody out there, whether you're a Lego designer or a casual hobbyist, I think we all get inspiration from the community, right? So every now and then someone will use a new color that I'm like, oh, I really want to do that. or a new parts usage. I'm like, geez, I never thought of doing that. So I constantly pull inspiration from other people and designers, and maybe that happens for them as well. But I don't know. Um, my I'm embarrassed to say because my kids are a little older. We never did the Harry Potter movies when they were younger. So when I took on this challenge, I actually talked to Block Doc Justin, so one of the doctors from our season, and he's a huge Harry Potter fan, and he was kind of giving me the Cole's notes, and he's like, Stevie, just watch the movies. So I binged watched all 8 movies. I'm like, this is really good. So then I got an idea of what I wanted to do, and Justin's been collaborating with me. I'll send him a picture every now and then. He's like, yeah, not quite. And then I make some modifications. Like, that's what we want.
Nice.
So he's collaborating. He's in Albuquerque. He's about 3,500 miles away from me, but we're collaborating.
That's awesome. Well, but those are the bonds you've made. I mean, those are the people. It's not just a resource. It's literally a friend helping a friend, and that community and what you're grabbing. Like I said, what you've got for your opportunities as far as the people you've got to experience with the conventions, going even across over to Denmark and everything else. I'm jealous, man. Those are amazing connections and amazing people that just are like flooding with creativity, and to be around that, I can just imagine.
I am extremely lucky. The opportunities that have come my way, the people that I've met, the ability to influence a new generation of builders. I speak with the greatest amount of humility. I love being part of this community. I really do. I am very fortunate enough for the things that have come to me and I've gone out and done. So it's such an honor to be a representative. So it's truly, yeah.
With your shelves filled the way they are of those amazing ships and amazing builds and stuff like that. You said, 1979 castle. You're talking. It's not a it's not a recent passion.
Nope.
It's definitely been there for quite some time.
Yeah,
So
I've had a chance to do some interviews with some really fun people and take part in some conventions. And Brick World Chicago was nice to host me a couple of years ago, and Brick Slopes this past year in Utah was nice enough to host me, and Bricks Cascade, on and on. Um, and I love talking to people. If you, anyone that's watching this, if you bump into me at a convention, don't even think you're inconveniencing me. Please come up and talk to me because I love talking about all things Lego. And most people, after I have a conversation with, they fully, readily acknowledge the fact that I have a very obvious passion. So it's sometimes hard to get me to stop talking about it, but I just um, again, I'm so immensely honored about the rewards and the community and the exposures and the people and the opportunities. Like, who knew when I got my first Lego set 46 years ago? Who knew? Like, it's incredible to think that that would have governed a good chunk of my life and directed me at this stage. It's wild.
no, it's awesome. I love watching your journey on the show. I love seeing you come back, on the holiday
Thank you.
special. Um, even just messaging you and chatting with you, watching you build the trophies, and then seeing you do your pick a brick like pulls in those bags and the tubs and everything else. It's just I love watching that because I'm seeing your creativity. I'm seeing what you're doing with it, and it definitely inspires, man. It's awesome to watch.
Thank you.
So I do appreciate very very much the opportunity that we've gotten. Just like I said, you said reaching out and just chatting. I mean,
Yeah.
as a community, as just a big fan of Lego, it's great to get these opportunities, with you, and definitely learn what the experiences were on Lego Masters, but also more of just your involvement in the community and the lifestyle and passion itself. So
Well, thanks. Like, I'm an open book, so you want me back, I'll come back. If people bump into me at conventions, please talk to me. I almost always have stickers or swag on me, so I love putting a little piece of Lego in someone's hand or a sticker on their water bottle. So
well, we're gonna have to hit you up then, and then yeah, I've got I've got more minifigs. We'll have to do some more quizzes. I'll
I'm in.
get you on. So we'll have to beef up apparently my
No, no, no,
challenge
no,
a
no,
little bit.
no. Don't make it harder. Don't make it harder.
Man, if we went like old school town and subsectioning old town stuff, paradisias and all that other stuff, yeah,
You might stump me on a few of those. Groovy Bones, you won't. That's his jam. That was his era.
yeah,
Yeah, he's dialed into that stuff.
might have might have to get Sam on as well, and we'll do a point system, see who can shout it out first, kind of deal. Then get get some kind
Excellent.
of buzzer system going on and make it a challenge here.
Uh, he might be down. So he lives 3 hours north of me. He's in Edmonton.
Okay,
I'm in Calgary. I think he's coming down for my event in March. I do a local community event, and I'm gonna go up to his event in May, called Northern Bricks. So we like to. It's interesting, and Sam's a good example of another person who I never would have made a contact with had it not been for this hobby, and now I consider him to be a good friend. So
well, Sam, be prepared. We're coming for you.
yeah. He's put in there who's the real number two. We do have this running joke that he and I both came in second place. So I had little poop emojis made up with I'm number two, and I give those out now to people.
Nice. Well, hopefully we get you back for another special or something, man. They
Dude,
keep
I'd be
doing the
more
All Stars. They keep doing the bringbacks and everything else. So,
than
I mean, and even Australia did. They were not. I don't think any of them were winners. I think they're all runners up and stuff like that. So, if we can get the U.S. to pull in the runners up and the number twos, that'd
yeah,
be awesome to have a,
I feel very confident that there will be an opportunity for an All Stars. Typically, if you watch the reality TV format through the United States, it tends to be after a season five. So I think once we see the airing of season five, which I believe will be this spring, I know it's been filmed. It was filmed around the same time I filmed the holiday special. It's just through TV deals and stuff. It's just taken a little while to get on air. So um, I think once we see season five, I think there'll be a strong argument for a US All Stars version, and I will beg. I will do whatever it takes. I want another try. I want another shot.
it'd be you would be the first third appearance then at that point. I don't think.
Technically, Crystal Star has three.
Okay.
So
Yep.
Crystal had her
Okay. Yeah.
season, the holiday special, and then the Australian
That's
version.
right.
So,
That's right. All right.
but
So we just got to get you up there as well then.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Well, I do appreciate your time very much. I know
Thank you.
I've definitely talked your ear off for a while here, but I do very much appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Um, and we are definitely going to reach out. We're going to get Sam. We're going to do some challenges here. Get the minifigure series set challenges going here, or just an overall chat. Because by all means, it's a passion we all share, and by all means, there's a lot to talk about
I'm
it. So,
not short on words. You've already figured this out.
well, I do appreciate it, my man.
Thanks, Steve.
I do wish you a great evening. Thank you very much for your time,
You as well.
and yeah, we'll be doing this again very soon. Then,
And thank you,
so
everyone that tuned in. I appreciate it. I see the love and support going through the chat bar. So thank you very much. Hopefully, I continue to inspire you. And if you're not following me, Yo-Yo Firebricks on Instagram.
I now you also have that on. Is it Twitter X as well?
Uh, I haven't touched that in a while. Ever since they
Okay.
changed format. Yo-Yo Firebricks is kind of where you'll find me on other platforms like Facebook and things like that too. So,
Okay.
and
Perfect. Well,
as you find out, if you send me messages, I will reply. Sometimes I don't see the messages on a prompt basis, but I will reply.
vouching. He does do. He is right there. So appreciate it. Well, you have a good night, sir, and we will definitely talk to you soon. Then.
Cheers, everyone.
See you. Thank you, guys.